Young Turks now has audio, the TYT Audio Network, podcasts of some of your favorite shows and new shows, including one with Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator. She's going to do We the People with Nina Turner, talking about equality and justice and seeing that through the eyes of regular Americans who are affected by politics and policy. Everybody check it out at tyt.com/audio.
Recent financial disclosures indicate that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, who happen to be advisors to Donald Trump, have made quite a bit of money on the side in their businesses, which of course are not tied to American governance at all. They made a total of $82 million in 2017 alone. So that income was while serving as senior White House advisors in 2017. And again, this is according to their own financial disclosures, which were just released. So to break it down a little further and get a sense of where they're making their money, Ivanka Trump, earned $3.9 million from her stake in the Trump International Hotel in Washington and more than $2 million in severance from the Trump Organization, while Kushner reported over $5 million in income from Quail Ridge, a Kushner Co.'s apartment complex acquired last year in Plainsboro, New Jersey. So that's just a little segment or a little bit of the money that they've made, but it gives you a sense of where they've made some of this money. And of course, there are concerns about conflicts of interest, corruption. The lawyers representing the Kushner and Trump say that they made sure to comply with all ethics standards to avoid making any type of ethics violations. But this does bring up some issues in terms of who they're going to look out for as advisors to the president. Are they going to look out for themselves and their own business interests, or are they going to look out for the American people?
And Jared Kushner, as you know, is no stranger to ethics violations. And by that I mean just in the basic disclosure form that he has to fill out as a government employee, he had no conflicts down, then no holdings. Then he went back and amended it and added 2. Then he went back and he amended it again and added 8. Then he went back and amended it again and he added 6. Then he went back and amended it again and he added 9. Then he went back and amended it again and again and again. This guy, Jared Kushner, he's got more than, I think, 50 now amendments to that original form, which were to reflect these conflicts of interest. There is no sense of ethics in this White House. They have no ethical compass whatsoever. That should be manifestly clear to us. And in a sense, then, it is no surprise that this is what we know about. Jared and Ivanka are running away with the store.
Absolutely. Now, Kushner divested some of his holdings when he became an advisor, but he and his wife have maintained large stakes in businesses with domestic and foreign ties, which could be informing Donald Trump's foreign policy decisions, which he is increasingly making unilaterally. That's something to consider. Trump's clothing and accessories line is produced exclusively in foreign factories in countries such as Bangladesh, Indonesia, and China. Fascinating information, especially considering the tariffs that Trump just slapped on our allies, with the argument that we need to bring jobs back here in the United States. I'm pretty sure that we have plenty of people who want to work in the fashion industry and make clothing for Ivanka Trump's brand. Why aren't we bringing those jobs back here to the United States? I mean, the audacity and the hypocrisy of this administration is incredible.
Just today, he's talking about protecting the American worker over everything.
Right.
That contradicts that. And you mentioned these are their reports. This is coming from them. And you mentioned constant mistakes. And there was even a mistake acknowledged in the report that we got. There was several stakes in limited liability companies, that it was just an accounting oversight. But there's a lot of money and a lot of mistakes.
There's a lot of I forgot. Oh yeah,
right.
I did meet with the Russians. Oh yeah, the Chinese did fund, and I got $500 million, and all of a sudden I was upside down in a real estate deal, and now I'm right side up in it. I mean, there's a lot of fast and loose in this administration.
That's right, and the fact that Kushner has not been forthcoming in his disclosures is part of the reason why there were issues with him getting the security clearance necessary to be an effective advisor, right, to the president. Also, last year, Kushner's assets were worth between $179 million and $735 million. So let's stop right there. Obviously, there's a huge disparity there, and you might be wondering, what? Why can't we get a more accurate number? Why the disparity? Well, when the filings, the way that the filing forms are written, it allows for that disparity. You don't have to be super specific about how much you're worth. They kind of give you different categories, basically.
Right, it's like when you apply for a credit card. They'll say your annual income is,
That's right.
$60,000 to $100,000 or whatever it is.
Exactly, and then Trump's assets, Ivanka Trump's assets, were valued between $55.3 million and $75.6 million.
They're not sweating money, is the bottom line.
They're not sweating money, and they are still very much tied to their companies or their family businesses. Remember, there was a lot of pressure for them to divest or to no longer be involved with these companies, but they still very much are. Now, they've made a few changes. I'll give you an example with Ivanka Trump. She's still involved with her clothing line, but the way that she gets paid from that clothing line is different. So for instance, she gets basically a salary each year, a fixed amount of money that she gets paid from her company rather than money that changes based on profits. And the whole idea behind that is, she's not going to be swayed by the profits that her company is making, but she's still gonna get paid by the company.
But her company is worth more as a result of profits and revenues that they're bringing in. So regardless of the check that they're sending out to Ivanka Trump, and she's not living check to check, so it almost doesn't matter. Her company is gaining tremendous revenue.
Just because of where she is every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, and remember, when you look at the full context of the Trump administration and the policies that they've pushed for, it all really makes sense when you take into account the business interests of the very people that are sitting in the White House. So for instance, those tax cuts, we talk about those tax cuts and how they benefit corporations, but I think we can do a better job at emphasizing that those tax cuts benefit the Trump family and the Kushner family specifically. They're the ones who are going to experience the joy of a giant corporate tax cut. And by the way, they never got rid of the loopholes in that so-called tax reform. Wasn't tax reform.
And by the way, Trump, who messages so well, and I'm not saying that facetiously, he messages his base. He goes, hey, these tax cuts, you'll remember he said, these tax cuts gonna cost me money. I'm not gonna make money on this. I'm gonna take a loss, but these are the right things for the American worker. So I don't know that even if the facts are trickling down to the people who put him in office.
To some maybe, but I actually had an interesting exchange with a Trump supporter on Twitter today, friendly exchange. Because the UN had released a report about the extreme poverty in the United States and how the numbers are really increasing. And this Trump supporter couldn't believe it. He's like, things are fantastic. Have you seen the unemployment rate? It's at historic lows. But when you dig a little deeper and you look at the number of people who are underemployed or the number of people who are no longer even attempting to look for a job because they're having difficulty finding anything, when you look at the stagnation of our wages in relation to inflation, when you look at the cost of housing in the United States, when you look at all these different issues, the economy is not really doing that well. When you look at the stock market and see the stock prices go up, you think, oh, well, people are investing in stocks. No. These corporations are investing in their own stocks with the tax cuts that they just got from the Trump administration.
That's right. Overwhelmingly, the percentages that money's going into buybacks, and that drives the price up.
Exactly. But right now, economic analysts are expecting a recession by 2020. 2/3 of them are expecting a recession by 2020. These are the people who are actually paying attention to the real numbers. Right. And so it's concerning, and I don't know if people are ever gonna wake up to what's really happening, but these are all things to take into account while the Trump family profits handsomely from their position in government.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.